You have seen this error. Red text at the console, something about access control allow origin. You paste it into ChatGPT, it gives you a fix. You try it, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Either way, you move on without understanding what happened. My good sir, this stops today. Hello everyone, my name is Felipe and welcome back to Backend Horizon. Today we're gonna talk about CORS. Yes, this nasty problem that all of us that are doing some web development, we all face it. And here's my take for you. The browser is blocking you, not the server. So here's the thing. When you see a CORS error, your API responded fine. The server did its job. It received your request, processed it, and sent back a response. But the browser intercepted that response and refused to hand it to your JavaScript. Think about that. The server sent a perfectly good response. The browser decided your code it isn't allowed to read it. This is not a server error. This is not a bug in your code. This is a browser security policy doing exactly what it was designed to do. Yes, I know it's confusing, but stay with me. Once you understand this, everything else clicks, I promise. Every address has something called an origin. It's made of three parts: the protocol, the domain, and the port. Protocol is HTTPS. Domain is myapp.com. Port is 443. If two addresses share all three, the browser considers them the same origin. If any one port is different, they are not. Your frontend runs on localhost 3000. Your backend runs on localhost 4000. Same machine, same localhost, but different ports. So means also a different origin. The browser treats them like two apps that have never met. They are on the same machine, running on the same localhost, and the browser is like, okay, I don't know her. That's the whole reason you are getting the error. So for example, your React app and your Express server are running on different ports, and the browser says, nope, those are different origin. I'm not handling over that response. A couple of more examples that trip people up. HTTP and HTTPS of the same domain, different origins. The scheme changed. myapp.com and api.myapp.com, also different origin. The host changed. So why does the browser even care? Imagine that you are logged in at your bank, a malicious site opens in another tab. Without this policy, that site's JavaScript could make requests to your bank API using your cookies and read the responses. The browser prevents this by default. It's called the same origin policy and it's been around since the late 90s. CORS stands for Cross Origin Resource Sharing. And here's the part that confused me a lot. CORS is not the problem, it's the solution. Yes, I am not joking. The same origin policy blocks everything cross-origin by default. CORS is the mechanism that lets servers opt in. It's the server saying, I trust requests from this specific origin. Let the browser hand over the response. It works through HTTP headers. If you never really thought about what headers are, they are just key value pairs attached to every HTTP request and response. They are metadata. Your browser sends headers with every request, like what language you speak, or whether you have cookies, and the server sends headers back, like what type of content it's returning. CORS works entirely through response headers. The server attaches specific ones that tell the browser this origin is allowed. For example, access control allow origin tells the browser which origin are trusted. Access control allow methods say which HTTP methods are allowed. Access control allow headers specifies which custom headers are okay. Now, for anything beyond a simple get or post with basic headers, the browser does something extra. It sends a preflight request first. That's an option request to the same URL asking the server, hey, would you accept this kind of request? If the server doesn't respond with the right CORS headers, the actual request never gets sent. So when you look at the network tab and you see two requests where you expected one, that's the preflight. The options request, then the real one. So maybe you can ask yourself why Postman works and my browser doesn't. This confuses everyone. You test your API in Postman, it works. You call the same endpoint from the browser, CORS error. Keep this in mind. Postman, it isn't a browser. It doesn't enforce the same origin policy. It doesn't send preflight requests. It just makes the HTTP call directly, like you would do in a terminal. CORS is a browser-only concept, period. And this is the bridge to the next thing I need you to understand. CORS doesn't protect your API. This is a big one. CORS is a browser policy. It protects the user's browser from malicious script. It does not protect your server. Anyone with a curl, Postman, a Python script, or literally any non-browser HTTP client can hit your API with zero CORS restriction. Your APIs is wide open to them. CORS doesn't exist outside the browser. If you're relying on CORS to secure your backend, you have no security at all. You still need the proper authentication, authorization, and input validation. CORS protects the users, not you. Before I show you the real fix, let me show you the fake one. You Google the CORS error, or you ask your favorite AI, or someone just say, just add no CORS to your fetch call. You add it, the error disappears. You celebrate. Then you try to read the response. It's empty. Response body is null. The data is gone. Mode no CORS tells the browser, I know this is a cross origin and I don't need to read the response. It makes the request opaque. The request still goes through, but the browser gives you nothing back. It silent fails. AI tools suggest this sometimes. Stack Overflow answers suggested. By the way, do you remember Stack Overflow? It's a trap. Don't use it unless you genuinely don't care about the response. Like sending an analytics ping where you don't need to read anything back. So the real fix. The fix happens on the server. Always. Because CORS is about the server telling the browser, I trust this origin. Here's the simplest way with Express and the CORS package. CORS with no arguments set access control allow origin with a star. This means any website on the internet can call your API from a browser. For local development, that's totally fine. For production, it's sloppy. So let's check out the proper way. Now, only your front-end origins get access. Everything else gets blocked by the browser. But what is the middleware actually doing? It's just setting response headers. That's it, no magic. You could do it yourself. Let's see. The CORS package is just a cleaner version of this. Understanding what's underneath helps you when things break. My opinion is stop using access control allow with an origin in production. Be explicit about which origins you trust. It takes 30 seconds to configure and save you from a whole class of problems. So let's take a look in a real-world situation. You are running your front-end on localhost 3000. Your API lives at api-test-myapp.com. You point your local API to the same API, and what happens? Of course, CORS error. The remote server only allows testmyapp.com, not local 3000, right? This is where people start doing dangerous things. Installing browser extensions that disable CORS. Please just don't, okay? Or adding a star to the test server and forgetting to remove it. That's a bit classic, right? So the clean fix for your local development, it's a local proxy. If you are running Vite, this is already built in. Now your frontend calls API users and Vite proxies it to the remote server. The browser sees the same origin request, no CORS involved. But just keep in mind, this is a local development trick only. Vite's dev server proxy doesn't exist in production. When you build and deploy your front end, there is no Vite sitting in the middle anymore. You will still need proper CORS configuration on your server for deployed environments. Another real-world situation. Everything runs fine locally, you deploy to staging, the front end is at testmyapp.com, the API is at api-testmyapp.com, and CORS error. Your CORS config still has localhost 3000 as the allowed origin. Nobody added the staging URL for your frontend. This burns people at the worst possible moment, always right before a demo, never on a Tuesday afternoon when you have time to think. The fix is an environment-based CORS configuration. CORS configuration is a deployment configuration. Treat it like you treat your database URL or your API keys. It should change per environment and it needs to be managed. Now let's think about something else. Maybe you don't need CORS at all. If your frontend and backends are behind the same domain, CORS doesn't even come up. Same origin, no cross-origin problem. You can also do this with a reverse proxy. Nginx forwards APIs to your backend, everything else to your frontend. Or use a framework with built-in API routes like Next.js, Nuxt, or SvelteKit. Or just deploy frontend and API on the same domain with base path routing. If you are constantly fighting CORS in your architecture, that's a signal. Your setup might be more complex than it needs to be. A reverse proxy or same origin deployment is often simpler to eliminate an entire class of problems. This doesn't mean that CORS is bad. There are real cases where you need CORS origin requests, third-party APIs, microservices on different domains, CDNs, and etc. But for a typical full-stack app where you control both sides, no. Put them behind the same origin and move on with your life. CORS is a browser thing, not a server thing, not an API thing. The browser enforces it, the server opts in through headers, and it protects the user's browser, not your API. Next time ChatGPT suggests you mode with no CORS, you will know better. If this helped it, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate that. If this was helpful for you, please leave a comment and let me know if you like this kind of content and if you want more tips. I really appreciate your time and see you in the next one. Bye bye.